Right, welcome one and all to the Nurajack, How to Estimate Nurajacks webinar today. My name is Lewis Olding. I'm the product manager for Nurajacks, and with me today is Mike Chantry, who looks after the retail stores around New Zealand. And as part of the team, you can see here on the screen, we have a new member, Danielle. She's now looking after she's in-store support, so she looks after the Auckland, Waikato Bay of Plenty area. And then, of course, David Kahn, who looks after Christchurch. You in the South Island may have met him. We really appreciate you coming along today. And hopefully when you leave, you'll feel far more confident when estimating Nurajacks for your project, or when specifying them, you can maybe be able to run a quick estimation on behalf of your client. Like most webinars, we encourage questions. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the ability to be able to use the Q&A feature. We'll be monitoring that throughout the webinar, so feel free to ask questions. And we'd like to just start by doing an opening poll, just to engage a bit of reaction from you, but also it helps Mike and I understand who we're talking to, and we'll tailor our presentation a little bit to you. So it's good to see. We'll just let that poll populate. Excellent. So, well, let's get started, shall we? We'll ask Mike to take us through the Nurajack overview.
Awesome, thank you, Lewis. So just to give you a brief overview of the Nurajacks, a little bit of the history. So Nurajacks have been on the market in New Zealand for around about 15 years. And they've been used extensively on both commercial and residential projects right throughout New Zealand, using Nurajacks with tiles, with timber, and also with composite decking. Nurajacks are stocked nationwide with placemakers, and we also have stock in some Bunnings stores, Tile Space. We work closely with them, and also many other independent stores around the country. Now, some of the features of the Nurajack system. By using Nurajacks, you can create a level deck surface over a sloping substrate and create a level entry into the home. The head of the Nurajack self-adjusts to 4.5 degrees, and each Nurajack takes around about 1 ton of weight. And the height of the Nurajack can be easily adjusted just by winding the thread up and down, or as you can see in the picture there, using the adjustment key in between the tiles to make minor adjustments to the height. And we're very proud to say that Nurajacks are made from 100% recycled materials. So there's tiles that can be used over Nurajacks. Also, Nurajacks can be used to support timber decks over membrane and also over concrete. And also, Nurajacks can be used to support timber decks going out over grass or over dirt by using the Nuraspike system. So you can see there, Nuraspike in the ground, Nurajack on top, and then you're into your deck construction. Now, we've got some really good documentation of some projects that we've done using Nuraspikes. So feel free to check those out on our website or on our social media, Instagram and Facebook. Now, that's a really quick overview of some of the features. For more information, feel free to jump on our website, nurajack.co.nz, and you can check out some of the other webinars that we've done. We go more in depth talking about Nurajacks with tiles and Nurajacks with timber. But the objective of our webinar today is, like Lewis said, to talk you through how to use our quantity calculator on our website. So if you get some plans come across your desk, you need to price a job with Nurajacks, or you're doing a job with Nurajacks, we want to make that easier for you and show you how to use our quantity calculator. So looking at our drawing here on your screen, you can see the drawing of our house. So Lewis is going to talk you through how to quantify Nurajacks going over membrane and using tiles. And then I'll take you through the ground floor plan. And we're going to do a couple of different scenarios there. We're going to work out a low profile deck going over concrete, then just going over grass, and then going over grass and going over concrete. Now, for our calculator to work to the best of its ability, there's some critical measurements that you need. So number one, obviously you need the dimensions of your deck area. So you need the length and the width. Secondly, we want the dimension from the high point of the membrane to the top of the deck surface. So you can see where the cursor there is, the top of the membrane or that high point to where you want your deck to finish. Then thirdly, we need the build-up of the deck. So in the first section drawing there, that's the thickness of the tile or the paver. And then for our timber deck down below, we want to know the thickness of the decking and then the thickness of the joist that we're going to use. And then lastly, we need to know the pitch of fall that the membrane is on. Obviously, if it's over membrane, it's going to be specified on the plan, but if it's on the concrete, that's something that we need to work out, but we'll talk you through how to do that. So they're the four critical measurements that you need to put into the calculator. So let's crack on with that first example, and we'll ask Lewis to take us through quantifying Nurajacks for tile decks.
Thank you, Mikey. As you're probably aware, we've been promoting and selling the Nurajack for, Nuralite has for almost 15 years now. And one of the projects is this one here. That was Justice Precinct in Christchurch, quite a large project for us. Now quantifying tiles, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on that same drawing, and we're going to just focus in on this membrane deck here. Now, this is we'll have to make a few assumptions on this deck. So I've drawn out a basic plan drawing. You can see here that the ranch sliders are down this one side here. I've annotated that in blue. The size of the deck is 8.5 meters by 2 meters, and it has a 2-degree fall. So those are critical pieces of information. 2-degree fall, 8.5 by 2 meter deck. Also, we need to know that the height at the door threshold, well, E2AS1 dictates 100 millimeters of height between the bottom of the membrane and the door threshold. So that's what we call the membrane upstand, and that needs to be, according to E2AS1, 100 millimeters. So we're just going to make that assumption that that's the case with this project. Now, how do we go about calculating this deck? Well, you go to our website, nurajack.co.nz. There's a number of great features about the website. One of the most popular features is our live chat feature here. You can see that David Kahn is actually manning live chat this morning. So if we were to ask a question right there, he'll be able to respond straight away. So we'll just minimize that down and we'll go to the quantity calculator. So to find the quantity calculator, go to technical information, Nurajack quantity calculator. And when the quantity calculator comes up, we can scroll down. And because the surface we want is tile, click on tile. Now we get into the tile deck quantity calculator. The first section is dimensions. So we just need to transpose the information from here into this section here. So first of all, we have a 8.5 meter deck that is long or across the fall. Down the fall, we have a 2 meter dimension going down. Oh, what's going on there? Sorry, giving you a preview of the rest of our presentation there. Sorry about that. Doesn't happen when you're practicing, does it, Mike? So it's a 2-degree fall going, 2-degree fall, as we've mentioned. We want to know the deck width down that fall. In this case, it's 2 meters. Now, what's the tile size, the tile dimensions? Well, we're going to be a little bit tricky here and have a 1200 millimeter by 600 millimeter tile. And that's becoming a more popular format in tile and paver. The gap between the tile and the cladding, so around the perimeter, what gap are you proposing? E2AS1 requires a 12 millimeter gap, but there are some other options there based on our tile cladding spaces. Have a look at our other webinars or our website to find out what they are. And then the thickness of the tile. In this case, we're going to choose a 50 mil concrete paver like we saw in that image, stone paver like what we saw in the image from the Justice Precinct. And then what's the minimum distance from the top of the deck substrate to the membrane? So that's that height again of 100 millimeters E2AS1. That's adjustable, and you can certainly adjust that. And then finally, what's the fall ratio on the deck? Well, we've mentioned that it's already 2 degrees. So we're going to go to a 2 degree fall. From there, we've only got one more question to ask, and that's how do you want the tile layout? How do you want the set out of the tiles? Do you want to have everything centered, or do you want to have a full cut tile at the balustrade and a small cut tile at the door threshold? And that's popular because, especially with narrow balconies, they want to be able to see a full tile as they go out. So let's just choose that because we can. So we want to have a cut at the shallow end. Okay, and then because of the format of the paver, it's automatically chosen corners and centers, but you can override that to corners, centers, and edges, or just corners only. But we do have some predetermined parameters for that in the system. Right. So we get to the actual results part of the calculator. So we see here we have a profile, the deck profile, and we see starting at the end near the balustrade, or near the joinery, sorry, that we have a 50 mil gap, underneath the paver for the Nurajack, and so that's a Nurajack SE1. And as we go down the fall, we see that it will go right the way to a SE3 and 120 mil gap beneath the paver. So that's the plan, the profile, I should say. We also get a deck plan. And the first thing you'll notice is that we don't have a full cut tile at this edge here, because the system has worked out that the small cut tile at this edge would be too small. We wouldn't be able to support it properly on Nurajacks, and so it's gone back to a defaulted centralized cut. So you have a cut tile around the whole perimeter. So that's a nice fail-safe for when trying to set out your and getting the right size jacks for that deck. Okay, and then going down to the breakdown. Down the left-hand side here, you have all the information that you've entered, so you can double check that information. But then as we get further down, we'll see that it even calculates the quantity of tiles that you will need for that deck. And then on the right-hand side, there's all the products that you will need. So in this case, 9 SE1s, 25 SE2s, 43 SE3s, and as we go further down the page, one tile cladding space of 14 millimeter, which compresses back to 12 mil. So that's a simple, straightforward membrane deck with linear fall going from a high point to a low point with an external gutter or something like that in that drawing. But what if that you had a situation like this where you had multiple falls? Well, let's go back up and we'll just we will have to do a bit of thinking about this one. So we're still going to have the tiles running the same format, so 1200 by 600. But what we're going to do is take this deck in 2 halves. And so we're going to basically flip this around on our calculator. You've probably thought about this and worked it out already, but let's go through the practice anyway. So instead of being 8.5 meters long, it's now going to be 2 meters long. And it's now going to be 4.25 meters wide, because what we're doing here again is we're halving this. We're just looking at now at this area. Again, to keep the tiles running in the right direction, we'll need to change the format of those. But other than that, the information is going to stay the same because this hip that runs through here will likely be 100 millimeters below that door threshold. Again, it's 2 degrees of fall, so we'll leave that the way that is. And now when we get to the tile layout or set out, where to cut the tiles, we need to change this so that we actually have a deep cut. The cut is at the deep end of the deck. So we want to have the smaller cut tile here with a large full cut tile here. Okay, that's quite critical. Now, as we scroll down the page, we can see that that we have a new calculation here for the deck profile. When we go to the plan, we can see that we've got these smaller cut tiles down the deep end of the balcony, I should say, and the large full cut tiles at the shallow end. So the full cut tiles here. And then as we scroll down, we'll get the totals that we need for half of the deck. Now remember, so to get the whole deck, you double that, but then take out that first row of, so the SE1s that will be used here, on double the whole thing and then take out one row, because that row is then shared with this deck here. I hope that makes sense. Okay, well, what happens if the layout is more like this, where you've got a full running across the whole deck and going to an outlet? Well, can the quantity calculator calculate for that? The short answer is sort of. And what we mean by that is that we won't be able to calculate the heights of the jacks involved, because you can imagine that you'd have SE1s all around here and all around here, and then they'd slowly get progressively taller as they went down into this outlet. But what the calculator can do is give you the overall quantity of what is required in that whole scenario. And then you can just either apply a ratio or actually go on site, set up a laser and figure out the heights that you need. So it'll still be able to give you the number of tiles involved and the number of jacks that are involved, just not the heights. So I hope that sort of explains the tile side of things. What we're going to do now is take you through the same process, but with estimating for a timber deck. And Mike's our timber specialist, so we'll get him to run through that.
Nice, thanks, Louis. So for this one, we're going to look at that ground floor plan on our drawing, and we're going to imagine that in 3 different scenarios. So first of all, just concrete, just grass, and then concrete and grass. And those critical measurements that we're looking for, again, we want the dimensions of our deck. So we're looking at the length and the width. For this scenario, we're going to say it's a 5 meter by a 3 meter deck. We need the height from the high point of our substrate to the top of our deck. If it's over membrane, like Louis said, it's around about 100 millimeters. If it's concrete, it's about 150. And then we need the build-up of our deck. So the thickness of our decking, and then the thickness of our joist, and also the pitch of fall. What angle that concrete is running away from the house on. Now, just a little side point here as well. You can see the render right down the bottom, see our deck and then how those baseboards are framed up. This is just one scenario that you can use if the perimeter of your deck doesn't finish into cladding or into a balustrade. Then the builder can just make some droppers down off his joist at the boundary there, brace them back up to the joist, and then he can fix his baseboards to those droppers rather than screwing baseboards into the side of the jack because it's not a flat surface. A little bit of framing there. So just a side point, something to keep in mind. Now, the first thing that we're going to see on our quantity calculator on the timber side of things is this placement graph. And the size of our joist and the substrate really governs how many Nurajacks we're going to use, because they're going to be at different spacings. So just as an example, the most common joist size that we see is a piece of 4x2. So we're going to say that our joist size is 100 by 50, and you can see those joist sizes up the left-hand side there. Now, if we were going out over membrane, we'd follow that light blue line, and our Nurajack spacing under each joist would be at 600 centers. So that's not the joist spacing, but that's Nurajacks under the joist. They'd be at 600 if we're using 4x2 going over membrane. Same size timber going out over a Nuraspike or over concrete, then our Nurajacks would be spaced at a meter going out. So when we put our information into the quantity calculator, that automatically calculates that, but that's just a suggested placement graph. Okay, well, let's get into it. So we have our concrete substrate here. So it's 5 meters by 3 meters. Now we'll go down and we'll put our measurements, our critical measurements that we need into the calculator. So the depth of our decking here, we're going to use 21 millimeter decking. Now, if we were going to use 19 mil decking, the calculator would calculate our joist spacing at 400 centers. If we go 21 millimeters like we've done here, then it calculates it at 450 centers, and then 32 mil decking is 600 centers. So 21 mil decking, that means our joist will be 450 centers max. The depth of our joist, we're going to use 4x2, so we'll keep that at 100. The minimum distance from the top of the deck to the substrate, we're going to make that 120 mils. So that's top of concrete to where we want our deck to finish at the high point. The fall ratio, we'll keep that the same, 1.5 degrees. Then we'll go down. So the length of our deck is 5 meters and the width is 3 meters. Now our next box is our bearers and substrate. So is the deck over membrane? No. So we'll click no. Do we want to use a bearer? No, because there's not enough height. Do we want to use Nuraspikes? No, we don't, because we're going straight onto the concrete. So we'll go down to our joist profile, and then, so this shows the buildup of our deck. So we can see our decking, our joist. Now our first line of Nurapads, or the line of Nurapads against the house, we can see the joist is going to get ripped and sat into the Nurapads. Then our next line coming out, we've got Nurapads and shims. And then our last two lines of Nurajacks, we've got SEO1s and SEO2s there. And you can also see that it gives us the centers, or where we want to space our Nurajacks under our joist. If we go down, we can see the deck plan. And this is really awesome when it comes to constructing it. Basically, we can see exactly where the calculator has told us that we need our Nurapads. So those dark circles are our Nurapads, and then the lighter ones are our Nurajacks, and we can see how our joists are spaced there. You can see the key at the bottom. So Nurapads are the dark ones, Nurajacks the lighter ones, and then Nuraspikes, we'll get to those soon. Now, if we scroll down, this gives us the breakdown. So we've got all our input values that we've put in back at the top. And it also tells us, you can see the box there just at the bottom of your screen. If you just scroll down a bit, Louis, you can see the joist quantity. So it tells us how many joists we need. And then it also tells us our joist spacing. So we've got 436 there. So we're not going over that 450. And it will tell us as well how far apart our Nurajacks are spaced underneath each joist. Then we've got our quantities on the side there. So however many Nurapads, shims and jacks that we need. So that's simple for going over concrete. Now we'll go back up and we'll pretend that the same size area is over grass. So we'll keep our decking the same, we'll keep our joist the same. What we're going to change is the minimum distance from the top of the deck to the substrate. We're going to make that 250 mils here. And then our fall ratio, we'll keep that the same as well. Now you might wonder, how do I know the pitch of fall that my grass is on? Well, there's another way that we can check that, but we're going to guesstimate that the grass is falling away from the house here at about that degree. Our deck length and width is the same. So we'll go down to our bearers and substrate. So is our deck over membrane? No, it's over grass. Do we want to use a bearer? Yes. So we'll click yes, and we want to use 100 by 100 bearer for this. Again, you can change that depending on the job. Do we want to use Nuraspikes? Yes, because it's all over grass. Now, this last little box here that comes up, the distance from the shallow end where the soil starts. So because that whole area is over grass, that is going to be 0. In our next example, we'll come back to that and I'll show you when and where to change it. So we'll keep that at 0 for now because the whole deck is over grass. Then we go down to our joist profile. And again, it shows us the buildup of our deck. So you can see our decking, the joist, the bearer, the Nurajack, and then the Nuraspike in the ground. Also, it's got the centers for our Nuraspikes and jacks underneath our bearer, and basically shows the centers for our bearers and then the size Nurajacks that we need. So we've got some 0s, some SEO2s, SEO3s for this example. And then if we go down again to our deck plan, awesome little plan there of the layout of the deck. So you can see the red dots are the Nuraspikes, those thick dark lines, they're our bearers, and then the thin darker lines there are our joist. So if you're putting all those values into the calculator, that basically shows you what the calculator has calculated and how it's done it so that you can construct it. So you got no jacks and spikes and things left over, or you don't come up short when you're building it. And if we go down again to our breakdown, so again, we've got all our values in there. It tells us our joist spacing, our joist quantity, our bearer quantity. So it's told us that we're going to use 4 bearers, the size of the bearer, and also the Nurajack spacing along the bearer. So that'll help us to know where we want to put our Nurajacks. And then on the other side, it's given us a complete rundown of what we need. So that's cool. Now for the last example, we're going to imagine that there is a concrete pathway running off the house. So we'll keep all of those deck dimensions the same. We'll just go down to our bearers and substrate here. Now we're going to say that this pathway is coming off the house at 1.5 meters. So we're going to change the distance from the shallow end where the soil starts in that box to 1.5 meters. And then we go down and our joist profile there shows the first 2 bearer lines, and the lines of Nurajacks are on concrete. So it deletes the Nuraspike, shows those sitting on concrete. And then the last 2 bearer lines, it shows those sitting on the Nuraspikes. So if we go down again, that translates that at our deck plan. And we can see it's converted those 2 first bearer lines to just be sitting on the Nurajacks, and then the last 2 on the Nuraspikes. So obviously that's the perfect sort of scenario with a deck. Obviously, if you've got a little dog leg or a jut out, you'll need to do those separately, but at least you can see the bulk of the deck is set out this way, and that's going to help you give an estimation of what you need. So just to review those critical measurements that we need to put into the calculator, obviously we need the area of our deck, so the length and the width. We need the height from the high point of the substrate to where we want our deck to finish, the build-up of our deck, so our joist size and our decking size, and then the pitch of fall as well. So we want to all those things to go into the calculator, and that'll help you estimate what you need for your project. So yeah, we've found a great value in the calculator. We know that you will too when you're estimating for plans or you're doing a little home project or a project for a customer. It's going to be of value to you as well. Thank you, Louis. Back to you.
Thank you, Mikey. Appreciate that. A couple of questions have just come through. First of all, can you buy directly from us at Nuralite? No, we can recommend where you can buy them from. They're stocked at Placemakers and Bunnings nationwide, at Tile Space nationwide, at Midas Tiles in Christchurch, and a number of other tile stores like Ambience Tiles and a number of tile stores around the country actually. And then of course, did I mention Tile Space? So there's plenty of places that you can buy them. Also, if you search them on the internet, you'll find them available online, even during lockdown, from Bunnings and Placemakers. So feel free to order. We're dispatching from our Christchurch warehouse at the moment, and they've got plenty of stock. Second question, if the joists are plain or gauged, should the joist size be 90 millimeters? Yes. 4x2, 90 millimeters, 90 by 45, or 50 by 100, or 100 by 50, depending on which part of the world you're from. Both that's interchangeable, and it doesn't overly affect the spacing. So we just state everything as rough sawn. And finally, how are the Nurajacks and Nurapads affixed to the concrete? They don't have to be affixed to the concrete. It's a floated deck system, just like we would over a membrane. However, there are 4 holes at the base of the Nurajack which can be used to affix things down. But the whole way that we designed the system, it all started over membranes with floated systems. and we've got multiple timber decks over concrete and over Nuraspikes that have been down for many years now, and they haven't shown movement or anything like that. So we're very confident that they don't need to be affixed down. If you wanted to affix them to something, you can fix them down, as I've already mentioned, or you could affix them to an opposing landscaping element, or to the house, or to something like that, a pergola or something like that, if you wanted to. Another option is to use an anchor pile or something like that, isn't it, Mikey?
Yeah, true. Yep. And I think we cover that in our other webinar as well. Yep. So if you got a few questions around methodology, check out our other webinars on our website.
Yeah, very good. Amber from Cobble Kings down there in Tauranga. If you have two different sizes of pavers being laid and in an offset pattern, does the calculator do this? No. You might have to bust out the scale rule on that one, I'm afraid, Amber. Or unless, especially if they're laid side by side in a barcode pattern or something like that, no, we can't do that. And is it possible to tile directly over grass? We've just recently worked with Outdoor. You might be familiar with them. They supply an aluminium frame system for composite decking and for tiles, and they're using the aluminium frame system over Nuraspikes and Nurajacks works very well. We've had a test deck down for over a year now, about a year and a half in Greenhithe, and it's worked really well. So we're about ready to launch that with Outdoor. So if you're really interested in having tiles over aluminium frame over the Nurajacks Nuraspikes, that's the only way we'd recommend doing it. And we can help you work with Outdoor on that solution. Got a couple of other questions, and I'm worried that we might run out of time. Just one thing we did actually miss, and I really wanted to highlight, is when you have done up your estimation, you can simply press the print deck profile and breakdown button, and that will produce a PDF friendly printed form, which you can then send to your supplier, whether it be Tilespace or whether it be Placemakers or Carter's ITM, whoever it might be. So just simply press that button. Now, if you've done it on your phone, which many of us do, where maybe you're on site and you want to measure on your phone, we actually produce this here at the bottom of the screen, plain text instructions. It has all the points laid out as they were in the profile, and you can just copy that to your clipboard and again send that to your preferred supplier, and they'll be able to quote or order the product for you. So just that's something that we did miss from the webinar. Well, we've got time for just one or two more questions. Do higher Nurajacks need lateral bracing? Our tallest Nurajack is the SE14, and it's adjustable up to 550 millimeters. If you're using an 8x2 bearer and an 8x2 joist, you're going to be well under a meter, and so that doesn't require bracing if you're under a meter. If you have concerns around that, though, we've seen that Nurajacks installed actually over a meter tall, and often they're constrained by the surrounds, and so they don't move or anything. But in a typical backyard type scenario, as soon as you need cross bracing, you'd need to go to a traditional pile. So we recommend decks under a meter tall for our Nurajack system. I think I've just answered the second question there, Perry. So hopefully that just by answering that. And okay, when estimating plans where no fall is specified and no building to laser, so off the plans and they haven't shown the falls, what fall would you use? Well, if it's in the Auckland region, the Auckland City Council requires 2 degrees of fall typically. If it's outside of Auckland and you're using particularly a TPO or a butyl type membrane, it'll be 1.5 degrees fall is what E2AS1 requires. So from a pricing point of view, though, the taller the jack, the more expensive it is. So we recommend that err on the side of caution by maybe estimating at 2 degrees of fall, because then you can always come back a size in the jack rather than go up a size, which will cost you more. Come back and you save a bit of money, be able to go down to the bakery and have morning tea. Well, that brings us to our allotted time. We want to just to finish off here. If you want to know more information about our system, please visit nurajack.co.nz. You've probably already been on our website. Definitely use the live chat part of our website. It's very popular. It's attended to by real people. It's not a robot. They're all of our the whole Nuralite team looks after this live chat, and if they can't answer it, they certainly contact Mike and I, and we'll help answer those questions. Another place to go to for up-to-date information on Nurajacks, what we're doing, we try and post heaps of videos and photos of current projects that we hear about. So subscribe to our YouTube, our Facebook and our Instagram social media, and you'll keep right up to date. Hopefully this has been informative for you all. We really appreciate your attendance. I'd just like to do one more closing poll, just with a couple of basic questions there. Would like you just to answer if you can, and then we will let you all get on with your day. It's been certainly another challenging few weeks with COVID-19 and lockdown in Auckland here, level 4 again for still another week and a half at least. So we hope you're all safe. I hope you're keeping well, and thank you very much for using some of your time to learn a bit more about the Nurajacks. So we'll leave you to it, and hope you have a good day. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, everyone.